last year we started to see teams take away what the Rams want to do. And I think there was, injuries played a part, and I think it started to mask the fact that teams actually figured out that offense and started to force them to plan B.
Yeah.
People are putting it down to other things like Cooper Kupp going down or Todd Gurley's, knee. Honestly, I think we started to see teams schematically figure out that offense, which is okay if it evolves. But if it doesn't, if he just comes back this year, no changes, right? Let's just get better executing at the system. This will be a problem because teams will force them to go to plan B. And if you don't have plan B, you're not going to be the same force. So it's a big thing for the Rams going into this year. Hopefully they don't just think they're good and try and do it again. But it's also a big thing for every other coach or every other franchise that just hired a Sean McVay coach, because all of those guys are porting over the same system. And if defenses have started to figure it out, they all need to figure out how to evolve it this offseason.
It's an interesting dynamic from what I've heard, dropping some what I've heard stuff.
Oh, wow.
It does seem like there's some self-awareness within the Rams building that, they need to get better in certain areas. But you hear a lot of this around the NFL, and to me, so that the Rams need to adjust to, say, too high type of sets and be able to beat teams in different ways. That's kind of like a macro thing that they need to improve upon, which makes sense. Like that's something that they should focus the offseason on, and it sounds like they've put a lot of time and effort into that. So that will be a great storyline to track. I do think one of the big mistakes that teams make sometimes, this is a quick aside, is when they say, last year we lost 4 games by 1 score, therefore we need to get better at running on third and 1, or we need to get better at red zone defense, or whatever it is. They look at the reason that they lost last year, which is probably a really small sample size or something that's more of an anomaly, or it was injury based or whatever it was, and they're like, that's the focus right now. That's the focus in camp. And I think what they should be focused on is not so much what just happened last year, but understanding that last year is one small sample size season in itself, but get better at the big stuff. If you continue to get better at the big stuff, which passing game and run more play action and all these axioms that essentially we've come up with, I think that takes over for the little stuff. I think a lot of teams focus on the little stuff. We need to run the ball, and that's where they get ththese whole, every time we run the ball 25 times, we're 10-1. Well, no kidding. You're confusing, correlation causation.
Yeah.
So it's just, to me, it's just interesting hearing those tidbits and what teams are focused on and what they think they need to be focused on, which a lot of time it's like the micro view instead of the macro view.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly shouldn't be zeroing in on, if you're identifying reasons you lost in what is going to be a small handful of games and a small handful of plays within those games, you're automatically aiming at the wrong things. Yep. Whether that was true or not, that's not how you're going to be better this year, because this year is going to present a completely different set of reasons why you lose games. We're talking about, like, just the NFL, the league, the game is too fickle for you to dial in on single specific plays and deem that as the reason you win or lose games.
It's also just this weird dynamic too, because as a coach, you feel the need to coach up toughness, or to coach up mental toughness, or to coach up the ability to win close games. How many times does a coach have a rough season and the next year they win a bunch of close games and it's like, yeah, we're learning how to win. We're learning how to finish. So from coach speak, you feel like you've done better. I do feel like the future of the NFL will be coaches who are able to step back and properly understand and properly allocate what wins games. And even so, you go 5-1 in close games, and instead of acknowledging, we've got some toughness, we know how to close out games, you acknowledge actually that's going to be tough to sustain next year. In those same situations, we'll probably go 3-3 instead of 5-1. So we need to get better at some bigger picture stuff. I think the biggest mistakes in the NFL are when teams think, okay, everything last year that was good will remain the same, and then we'll just improve these other things and we'll get better. Mm-hmm. Because every team's thinking that. Every team thinks they're going to get a little bit better. All right. Quick aside, I hijacked it, but I think it's a key point.